Revealed, 31-year-old mom's unexpected turnaround after 6 days of ignoring her paralyzed toddler. Sarah sat on her couch, the ghost of laughter echoing faintly in her mind. It had been 6 days since the accident, 6 days of darkness and regret. She stared blankly at the walls adorned with pictures of happier times, Jake's first steps, his toothy grin catching the golden sun. A world of possibilities once bloomed before her. Now, her heart ached like a raw wound, and the guilt held her captive, a heavy chain dragging her deeper into despair. Outside, the neighborhood thrummed with life. Children's shouts mixed with the smell of grilled burgers wafting through open doors. Each sound felt like a stab in her chest. Friends had sent meals, sympathy cards poured in, each one a reminder of her perceived failures, failure as a mother, and failure as a member of her once tight-knit community. But as she isolated herself, the sound of Jake's cheerful laughter, once music to her soul, felt unbearable. In the somber silence of her home, thoughts spiraled out of control. She couldn't face Jake, couldn't face the gleam in his eyes that still sparkled, undimmed by his new reality. "I'm sorry." The words rolled off her tongue like a forgotten melody, but they seemed hollow when directed at a child who was confined to a wheelchair, his spirit untouched, playing with his favorite toy as if nothing had changed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. On day 6, determined to escape the suffocating silence, Sarah stepped outside. Her body felt heavy, almost foreign. As she rounded the corner, she stumbled upon a group of local veterans gathering on the park bench, their laughter resonating through the crisp autumn air. Intrigued, she listened, every story shared pulling her in deeper tales of trauma, heartbreak, and incredible resilience. It struck her then, like a lightning bolt. These individuals were fighting a different kind of battle, a battle of the heart. Their stories echoed her own, yet they stood unabashedly before the world. Strength seeped into her veins, igniting a spark of purpose. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could share her pain. Perhaps she could roar instead of retreat. She returned home with a vision, a fundraiser to advocate for children like Jake. As she stood before Jake's brightly colored bedroom, filled with toys and sunshine, she felt the warmth of hope flooding back into her heart. Yet doubt lingered in the corners of her mind. What if she failed? What if the world's judgment became too loud? The turmoil swirled around her as she navigated her thoughts. This was her son. This was their fight. As she stood at the crossroad of despair and resilience, uncertainty gripped her. Could she reshape herself, break free from guilt's suffocating grip? With every ounce of strength, she breathed in hope, ready to step into the unknown future ahead. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, creating a warm glow in Jake's room. Sarah stood there, her heart racing with a mix of anxiety and excitement. Today was the day her first meeting to discuss the fundraiser. It felt like she was stepping onto a tightrope, teetering between fear and hope. Jake was watching her, his bright blue eyes sparkling, unaware of the monumental shift unfolding in his mom's heart. "Hey, buddy," she said, forcing a smile, though it felt unfamiliar. She approached his wheelchair, leaning down to meet his gaze. "I'm going to do something today. Something big." His small hand reached out, grasping hers. That simple touch sent a rush of warmth through her, a reminder of the bond they shared despite the storms swirling around them. As Sarah prepared to leave, she felt the familiar weight of doubt creeping in. What if no one came? What if it flopped? The thoughts were relentless, but she pushed them aside. She had to believe in herself. For Jake, when she arrived at the community center, the place buzzed with chatter. She could hear laughter spilling from the gathering room, and for a moment, envy slithered through her. But she straightened her shoulders and reminded herself of her purpose. This wasn't about her. It was about Jake and children like him, about raising awareness, helping families who felt as lost as she had. She walked into the room, and her breath caught. Faces turned to her, some filled with curiosity, others with compassion. Her heart drummed loudly in her chest. They were there to listen, to support. After a few introductions, she stood at the front, her fingers trembling around the edges of her notes. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak. I'm Sarah, and I'm here because my son, Jake, has faced challenges I never thought we would encounter. He is strong, brave, and mostly still an incredible little boy. As she spoke, she poured her heart out. She shared the dark days filled with isolation, the struggles of navigating her son's new world. The room hung onto her words, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of hope. People nodded, their empathy palpable. When she finished, a wave of applause washed over her. It was overwhelming, but it felt good, like a warm embrace in the midst of cold doubt. A woman stood up, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. My son went through something similar. How can we help? Moments later, a plan began to unfold: a bake sale, a community run, a talent show. Ideas spilled out like confetti, each one more vibrant than the last. Laughter filled the room as they brainstormed, igniting a sense of unity and purpose. But in the swirl of excitement, a small uneasiness lingered at the edges of her mind. What if it wasn't enough? What if the funds raised didn't change anything? She had opened a door, but what lay beyond it? That evening, driving home, Sarah felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. She had taken a step forward, breaking the chains that held her in anguish. But as shadows began to creep back into her heart, she realized the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. But Sarah knew one thing: she was not alone anymore. As she pulled into the driveway, her heart surged with a new promise: she would fight for Jake, and together, they would rise from this. Little did she know that a challenge awaited her, one that would test her resolve like never before. Would she be strong enough to face it head-on, or would doubts creep back in? The road ahead promised to be fraught with obstacles, ones that could either break her or shape her into the hero Jake believed she could be. The next morning felt different. The sun rose brighter, as if in celebration of what Sarah had achieved. But today carried its own weight. A stack of papers lay on her kitchen table, all her fundraising plans sketched out in hopeful ink. Yet, under the excitement lay the gnawing fear that haunted her, the fear that everything could go sideways. Jake was supposed to be at the center of all this, and she could hear him giggling from his room, totally oblivious to her worries. The sound was magnetic, pulling her heart toward him. She took a moment, savoring those innocent bursts of joy, and then walked into his bedroom. "Good morning, champ," she said, her voice brighter than her mood. Jake turned, his blue eyes glowing with mischief. He loved mornings, especially when they took on a life of their own. "Mom, want a race?" he challenged, determination in his tone as he scooted his wheelchair closer to the edge of the bed. "Race?" she echoed. "You know I'm not sure you could beat me today." His laughter filled the room, so deliriously contagious that Sarah couldn't help but laugh too. The pure, unfettered joy in his laughter was fuel for her spirit. "Let us do it," he insisted, his small hands clenching the wheels of his chair, ready to go. "All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. With that, they raced to the couch, to the kitchen, each shout of victory strong enough to silence the world. Once he made it to the couch, Jake threw his hands up in triumph, and she couldn't contain her smiles. But as the laughter faded, reality set back in. Sarah was back in her own head, anxiety creeping in again. She couldn't shake the thoughts about the fundraiser. It weighed heavy. Throughout the day, Sarah busied herself with preparations, gathering supplies for the bake sale, organizing posters, calling local businesses for donations. Yet, every time her phone rang, her heart would skip a beat. The calls could either bring good news or more challenges. As evening approached, she felt a slight crackle of excitement through her body. The bake sale was only days away, and the community seemed genuinely supportive. In her quieter moments, she envisioned long tables laden with treats, children laughing, and families connecting. But just a fleeting thought would chase it away. What if it flopped? That night, as she tucked Jake into bed, he looked up at her with sleep slowly taking hold of him. "Mama," he whispered, "you're going to make lots of friends, right?" Her heart swelled. "Of course, honey. You're my best friend, and your mama is going to make new ones too." "Good," he said, his eyelids growing heavy. "You'll take me to the bake sale, right?" The innocent trust in his voice pierced her heart. "Absolutely," she affirmed, planting a gentle kiss on his forehead. The warmth of his little body against her made her realize this was all worth it. But as she turned off the light and stepped out of his room, unease curled tight in her chest. She could put on a brave face, but doubts lingered. What if her dreams and hope for the better didn't match anyone else's? Would it change anything for Jake? The night tucked in around her, heavy and still. As she curled up on the couch, surrounded by her plans and dreams, she heard a notification on her phone. A message popped up from an unknown number. "We need to talk about the fundraiser." A chill ran down her spine. Who could it be? Her heart raced, the night suddenly buzzing with a new, ominous energy. But wasn't he that part of the journey? She had to find out. Would this be another obstacle, or a turning point? The uncertainty loomed larger than before. Sarah stared at her phone, the message blinking at her like a lighthouse in a storm. Her instinct was to ignore it, to let the unknown linger like a dark shadow in the corners of her mind. But curiosity gnawed at her. This could be the key to making the fundraiser work or another hurdle to jump over. She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed a reply. "Who is this?" The message sent with the weight of her apprehension. A moment later, a reply came through. "It's Tim from the community center. We need to discuss the concerns about the bake sale." Tim? She remembered him from the last board meeting. A no-nonsense guy with a knack for details. Worry clenched her stomach. Concerns? Was she doing something wrong? Her heart thudded as she pictured the event tables overflowing with baked goods, children smiling, families mingling, everything she had worked so hard for. Just then, the echoes of Jake's laughter from earlier that morning filled her mind. She regained her strength, typing back quickly. "Can we meet tomorrow? I want to ensure everything goes smoothly." Relief accompanied the fast-fingered response. At least she was facing it head-on. As sleep finally nudged her tired body, she couldn't help but wonder what tomorrow would bring. Would Tim's concerns be about logistics, or were they more serious? What if no one showed up at the bake sale? She tried to shake off the thoughts, but found herself tossing and turning as doubt filled the dark spaces of the night. The morning sunlight filtered in through the curtains, and when Sarah woke up, it felt like uncharted territory all over again. Today would be pivotal. She could make this work for Jake, for the community, and for herself. After breakfast, Jake was buzzing with energy, seemingly immune to the storm of anxiety building inside her. "Are we going to the bake sale today, Mom? Can I help?" His excitement mirrored a wild curiosity that invigorated her spirit. "Not today, Jake. I have a meeting first," she explained, slipping into a light jacket. "But we'll go shopping for goodies later." His face fell slightly, but he nodded in understanding. "Okay, but only if we get those cookies I like." "Deal. And maybe we can try something new too," she replied, ruffling his hair, trying to keep the mood light. She leaned in close and whispered, "We're going to have an amazing bake sale together, you'll see." As Sarah stepped outside, the brisk air hit her face, a sharp reminder of the challenges ahead. She drove with a sense of purpose, her mind racing through lists of what she needed to address with Tim. Would he think she was in over her head? Arriving at the community center, she climbed the steps, nerves intertwining with determination. The doors felt heavy, but she pushed them open. Inside, the place buzzed with activity volunteers setting up for various events, laughter mingling with the smell of coffee wafting from the kitchen. "Tim," she called out when she spotted him. He turned and motioned for her to join him in a quiet corner. Once they settled, the weight of her uncertainties came rushing back. "What's on your mind?" she asked, bracing herself. Tim took a deep breath, and what he said next sent a current of apprehension through her. "I've heard talk about the bake sale, Sarah. Some are concerned it might not be well received. The community is wary of new events in that moment." All Sarah's aspirations for the fundraiser felt as fragile as glass. Could she rally this community? Did they even want change, or were they stuck in their ways? The silence stretched between them, heavy and expectant. Just when she thought she might crumble under the pressure, a voice echoed from across the hall, joyful and bright. "Hey, is anyone here ready for a bake-off?" A woman stood at the entrance, hands on her hips, enthusiasm radiating from her. The spark in her eyes caught Sarah's attention like a beacon. Would this stranger bring the community Sarah so desperately wanted to connect with? As the conversation shifted, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, could this woman be the key to turning everything around? The woman stepped closer, her energy a welcome wave in Sarah's sea of uncertainty. Sorry to interrupt, she said, a bright smile lighting up her face. I'm Lily. I heard about the bake sale and thought I'd volunteer. I've got some amazing recipes that could bring a crowd. Sarah felt the weight on her shoulders lighten, just a fraction. That's great. We could definitely use some more help. Her voice was steadier than she felt. Tim raised an eyebrow, his expression slowly shifting from caution to curiosity. Nice to meet you, Lily. I've heard some folks in our community could really benefit from events like these. What ideas do you have? Lily beamed, her enthusiasm infectious. How about a themed bake-off? People love a little friendly competition. We can promote it on social media, get some local businesses involved for sponsorships. Plus, nothing gets people talking like some delicious treats. Sarah's heart raced as Lily spoke, visions of families gathered for laughter and camaraderie flashing before her eyes. That could really work. It might even draw people in, especially if they have a stake in the competition. Tim nodded thoughtfully. It's worth exploring. Maybe if we make it inclusive, encourage people to showcase their own cultural recipes, it could truly represent our community. As they brainstormed ideas, Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Maybe they could turn the fundraiser into not just a bake sale, but a festival of flavors and cultures. The prospect of gathering her neighbors, of bringing life into the community center, filled her with warm anticipation. After discussing timelines and logistics, the meeting transitioned to a plan of action. Sarah began to feel more confident. This was far more than a bake sale. It was a chance to unite, to show everyone what they could achieve together. Today is going to be amazing, Sarah said, her voice shaking with excitement. I can already picture it. But as she spoke, a thought nagged her mind. Would the community truly embrace this new idea, or would they still cling to their apprehensions? Just then, Tim's phone vibrated on the table, breaking the momentary high. He glanced at it, then back at Sarah, his expression turned serious. I need to take this. Why don't you two talk about how to promote the event? We need to word this right to gain interest. As he excused himself, Sarah turned to Lily, who was busy sketching out ideas on a napkin. Thanks for stepping in like this. I was really worried about how to connect with everyone. Lily looked up and smiled warmly. It's what community is all about, right? Everyone has a part to play. Sarah considered this. Could their combined energy truly transform the perception of the bake sale? But just as she began to feel buoyed by the possibilities, she remembered the whispers of doubt Tim had mentioned. Would they be able to shift the narrative, or would it all come crashing down before it even started? The conversation continued, plans solidifying with each exchange, but doubt lurked in the back of Sarah's mind. Would the community show up and support them? Or was she chasing a dream that would never take flight? Suddenly, a thought struck her. What if we reached out to families directly, handing out flyers in neighborhoods, maybe even visiting community gatherings? We could show them why this really matters. Lily nodded vigorously, excitement bubbling. That's a brilliant idea, Sarah. Let us do it. As they plotted their next steps, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were at the beginning of something much bigger. They both had the chance to turn whispers into shouts of support, but first, they would need to find a way to win over hearts. Would every heartfelt effort they made be enough to overcome the skepticism? Or could this bake-off truly blossom into something more than any of them anticipated? With renewed determination, Sarah and Lily set to work on a strategy to spread the word. They gathered supplies, including bright paper and Sharpie markers for designing flyers. The lively chatter between them filled the room, a tapestry of hope woven with laughter and shared ideas. Okay, let us make it colorful, Lily suggested as she grabbed a handful of markers, her eyes sparkling with creativity. Like a festival, Sarah agreed, excitement bubbling inside her. We want people to feel that energy even before they come. As each flyer began to take shape, they scribbled in big, bold letters. Join us for a community bake-off. Underneath, they included colorful images of cakes, cookies, and pies. Each flyer was a small piece of their vision coming to life. Time slipped away as they lost themselves in the project. Once done, they had dozens of flyers ready to spread around the neighborhood. The momentum felt electric, with every little detail they discussed adding to a growing excitement. They envisioned parents, kids, and neighbors mingling, cheering each other on. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues, the two women put their plan into action. They decided to head to the local community park the next day, where families often congregated after work. Think we'll see a lot of people? Sarah asked, her voice a blend of excitement and nerves. Absolutely. If we show them our heart, they'll feel it, Lily replied, a contagious confidence radiating from her. And if we let them know it's about more than just baking, a chance to celebrate each other's cultures and stories, they'll want to join in. The next day, they set out with stacks of flyers, determined to make connections. The air was fragrant with freshly cut grass and laughter from children playing. As they approached small groups gathered on picnic tables, Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Let us start here, she said, pointing to a cluster of families enjoying a meal. With a deep breath, she and Lily walked over, tentative but hopeful. Excuse me, Sarah called out, a smile lighting her face. We're organizing a community bake-off to support our local center, and we'd love for you to be part of it. Initial looks of curiosity transformed into warm smiles. Parents leaned in, intrigued, and children perked up at the mention of a bake-off. What is a bake-off? A little girl asked, her pigtails bobbing as she tilted her head. It's where everyone gets to bake their favorite treats and compete for fun prizes. Lily chimed in, her enthusiasm infectious. Plus, we want to see your family recipes, bring your culture into the mix. Excited chatter erupted among the families. Sarah watched in awe as connections sparked, each child's face lighting up at the thought of participating, while parents shared glances of approval. As they moved from group to group, they quickly discovered shared stories and existing connections, weaving a thread through the community's shared history. The warmth filled Sarah with an unshakable determination. This was how they would bridge the gaps. The bake-off wasn't just about dessert. It was a celebration of life's flavors, of each family's story and background. Yet, even as joy surrounded her, the echoing doubts still lingered in Sarah's mind. Would a simple bake-off truly reshape the community's apprehension, transforming waning connections into deep-rooted bonds? As dusk began to fall, bringing with it a soft embrace of twilight, Sarah felt an urge to push through the doubt. They had generated excitement, yes, but would it sustain once their project was on the horizon? Exchanging glances with Lily, Sarah could see the same bright spark in her eyes. They might just be at the brink of something beautiful. All it would take now was commitment and a little faith. But as they prepared to head home, Sarah couldn't dismiss the feeling that this was only the beginning. What if the community's response would hold more than just participation? What if their own hearts revealed unexpected truths that changed everything? The following weekend arrived under a bright sun, laughter and chatter already filling the park as Sarah and Lily set up their table. The aroma of grilling burgers mingled with the scent of cotton candy wafting from a nearby stall. Families strolled by, drawing closer, their curiosity piqued by the vibrant flyers fluttering in the gentle breeze. Look at all these families, Sarah exclaimed, gripping the edge of the table as her heart raced with anticipation. I didn't think we'd have so many so soon. Lily adjusted a colorful banner that read Community Bake-Off, bringing us together. Her excitement was palpable, infectious even. This is just the start. They'll be even more excited when they see what we have planned. Yet amidst the merriment, Sarah couldn't shake the nagging unease that lingered. What if the excitement fizzled out when the day actually arrived? What if no one really wanted to bake or share their stories as they had imagined? As the first families approached, Sarah forced herself to smile brighter, shaking off the doubts like water off a duck's back. Welcome. We're so glad you stopped by, she said, pouring her enthusiasm into her voice. Lily jumped in. We're hosting a bake-off in a few weeks, and we'd love for you to participate. You can bring your family's favorite recipes and join us for a fun day. The idea began to resonate, though a few families exchanged confused glances. Are you sure? We're not bakers or anything, an older woman said, hesitantly stepping forward. That's the best part. Lily laughed, her charm disarming. You don't have to be a pro. It's about sharing what you love. Just bake something that makes you happy. More families gathered, magnetized by their warmth. Children eyed the colorful drawings and carefully crafted cakes displayed on the table. A small boy tugged at his mom's shirt, eyes wide. Can we do it, Mom? I want to make chocolate cookies. The mother's face softened, and Sarah's heart soared. These were the moments she had envisioned. Children dreaming, families laughing, and culture intertwining through simple acts of baking. This was more than a bake-off. It was a communal gathering that would breathe life and unity into their neighborhood. Sarah's spirits lifted, pushing her doubts aside. As laughter echoed and chatter buzzed around her, she realized they were igniting a fire that hadn't flickered in a long time. But just as the excitement peaked, Sarah looked up to see a familiar face, Mrs. Green, the elderly lady from down the street, marching toward them. "Oh dear," Sarah whispered, suddenly anxious. Mrs. Green had always been reserved, often dismissing gatherings. "What is this racket about?" Mrs. Green asked, peering over her glasses, her tone firm but not unkind. Lily stepped forward, her smile unfaltering. "We're putting together a bake-off. It's going to be a celebration of everyone's cultures and recipes, and your input would mean the world to us." Mrs. Green's lips curled into a skeptical line. "Celebration? And what makes you think people want to come together for baking? They hardly speak to each other in this neighborhood." "Because that's exactly why we need this," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. "Everyone craves connection. We just want to provide a space for it to foster friendships and spark joy." Silence hung thick in the air. A few nearby families leaned in, eager to hear Mrs. Green's response. Would she turn away the hope they offered? But against all odds, Mrs. Green let out a small chuckle, a twinkle of something softening her gaze. "Well, if it's a chance for those kids to taste my famous blueberry pie, I might be convinced to help." Relief washed over Sarah like a wave. The gentle acceptance in Mrs. Green's voice breathed new life into their mission, anchoring it deeper into the community's heart. But as they continued to gather support, Sarah's inner voice resurfaced, urging her to confront her growing fears. Would their newfound alliances survive the pressure of expectations? Would past grievances rise to the occasion and overshadow their dreams? As energy reignited and laughter filled the park, Sarah felt both the thrill of possibility and a shiver of dread. After all, they were stepping into uncharted waters. What if the truths lurking beneath the surface threatened to pull them down instead of lifting them up? The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. Sarah and Lily turned their focus to spreading the word about the bake-off, hanging larger flyers, and chatting with anyone who would listen. The park transformed into a living tapestry of excitement, filled with colorful decorations and the sounds of community. Each day, more families stopped by their table, sharing recipes and exchanging stories. Sarah could hardly believe the warmth that enveloped her as kids climbed trees nearby, laughter ringing out like a joyful melody. Every evening, they returned home, their energy reaching new heights, enthusiasm spilling over into conversations long after the sun dipped below the horizon. But even as joy blossomed, the nagging doubts still loomed. The pressure began to seep in. The expectation of making the bake-off a success weighed heavily on her. With only 2 weeks left, Sarah wondered if they could really pull this off. What if the event flopped? What if people brought recipes that didn't connect, that didn't inspire the magic she envisioned? Lily seemed to sense her rising anxiety. "Sarah, look how far we've come. Take a breath. Remember what this is really about. It's not just desserts. It's about bringing people together." I know, Sarah replied, rubbing her temples. "But those families, they're looking to us to create something special. What if we disappoint them?" "Hey," Lily said, her voice steady and reassuring. "You need to trust this moment. We have each other, and that's the best recipe there is." As the sun was setting on yet another beautiful day, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope rising amidst her lingering worries. Maybe they could make this happen. Maybe they just needed to take it one step at a time. The following Saturday, the bake-off approached, and Sarah and Lily prepared to hang a new sign. It read "Bake, Share, Connect." When they put it up, families paused, contemplating its meaning. Children bounced on their feet, already bursting with excitement about their baking projects. But as the day grew nearer, a shadow fell over Sarah's excitement. She was fretting about the turnout when an unexpected visitor arrived. Jacob, the grumpy old man from down the street. He often muttered under his breath whenever Sarah walked by, always quick to criticize the vibrancy that surrounded their neighborhood. "I need to talk to you too," Jacob grumbled. The tension was palpable as families turned to listen, a hush drifting over the crowd. "You think you can just waltz in here and get everyone baking? This ain't a fairy tale." "What's the matter, Jacob?" Lily stepped forward, confidence radiating from her. "We're trying to bring some joy back into this community. You could be part of it." Maybe you hold a recipe worth sharing? He crossed his arms, frowning, as his eyes flared with something between anger and nostalgia. Joy. All I see is a lot of noise, he muttered. But a moment later, his expression flickered, revealing a hint of vulnerability. And it's been a long time since anyone tried. Sarah held her breath, jumping into the space filled with uncertainty. We're not here just to bake, Jacob. We want to know your story too. Bring your recipe. We really want everyone to be part of this. The hesitation between them was electric. A moment passed where the crowd remained quiet, anticipation hanging in the air. Would Jacob take a chance and join them? Could this grumpy old man hold a place in the heart of a community that seemed ready to embrace change? As Sarah's heart raced, she felt the stakes aimlessly floating. She was terrified yet inspired. Would Jacob's resistance give way to an unexpected bond? Or would he remind everyone that past grievances could drown out the laughter? With Jacob's hesitant but curious gaze fixed upon her, Sarah's pulse quickened. This was at the moment she had anticipated. Would he step forward and open up, or pull back into his shell, snuffing out the flame of connection before it even ignited? The silence stretched on, thick with tension as Jacob scanned the faces of the hopeful crowd. Sarah felt her heart thud loudly in her chest, each beat underscoring her anxiety. Would he respond? Would this be the moment everything changed? Fine, Jacob finally mumbled, his voice gruff as he dropped his gaze. I suppose I could come up with something. He shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable with the attention, the vulnerability slipping through his usual barriers. Really? Lily beamed, her eyes lighting up. That would be amazing. I mean, your recipe, what is it? Something sweet? He let out a deep sigh, almost like he was letting go of years of frustration. My mother's apple pie. But it's not just about the ingredients. It's about the memories. His face softened briefly before the hard lines returned. And I don't want any fuss over it. Lily was practically bouncing now. No fuss, we promise. Just a simple sharing. We want to create connections, just like you said. Your memories matter, Jacob. He studied her, searching for a weakness in her enthusiasm. But there was none. A hint of a smile almost broke through the gruff facade. And just like that, the ice began to thaw. You might regret that invitation, girl. This pie takes hours, he warned. But even as he spoke, there was a lightness in his voice. Sarah exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Jacob was finally opening up, and this tiny connection felt monumental. We want to mind the weight. We want everyone's story, Jacob. Maybe yours will spark something in someone else, she urged, her voice steady. The crowd's anticipation surged, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Mothers exchanged glances, kids whispered among themselves, both feeling something new had started. Maybe, just maybe, they could create this community bond together. All right then, Jacob said, almost sheepishly. I'll bring the pie. Just don't expect perfection. His hard exterior momentarily cracked, unveiling a glimpse of the man behind the grumpiness. The crowd erupted in soft murmurs of approval, the tension dissipating into laughter and chatter. Sarah felt a warmth spread within her. They were witnessing a small miracle. Thank you, Jacob, she said earnestly, her smile wide enough to draw him in. We can't wait to taste it. As he nodded and stepped back into the crowd, a gentle breeze rustled the decorations. The atmosphere had shifted not just because of Jacob's agreement, but because they had all witnessed a breakthrough, a moment where rhetoric transformed into reality. Lily clapped her hands together, first in disbelief, then slowly relinquishing to joyous laughter. I can't believe it. Our first guest truly stepping forward. But as they high-fived, Sarah's mind wandered. Jacob wouldn't be the only one with a story. Everyone had a recipe, a memory that whispered something deeper. What if others felt inspired like him? Let us finish setting up the table, Sarah said, her spirit renewed. We have to be ready for the neighbors. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the park in shades of orange and pink, her excitement bubbled over. The event was about to become so much more than just a bake-off. It was a gathering of voices and stories, all lined up to be heard. But as Sarah prepared, a new worry crept in. What if Jacob's story wasn't enough to inspire the others? What if the event fell flat despite the initial thrill? Her heart skipped a beat as she pondered. This was just the beginning. Would they be able to truly uplift everyone? Would they discover deeper tales woven into the fabric of their community as she hoped? The setting sun cast long shadows, and Sarah stood, absorbing the energy around them. There was anticipation in the air, but it felt fragile. Would the magic of connection hold when the bake-off day finally arrived? With her thoughts swirling, she whispered to herself, "What are we really about to uncover?" The answer loomed just on the horizon, waiting silently for the right moment to burst through. The day of the bake-off arrived, shimmering like a gift waiting to be unwrapped. As the sun streamed down over the park, an electric atmosphere filled the air. Children raced towards the playground. Families gathered with blankets and baskets. Laughter swirled like confetti. Sarah could hardly take it in. This was it. They had transformed a simple idea into a community gathering, and her heart thumped with anticipation. She stood at the registration table, her eyes scanning the crowd. Families streamed in, smiles planted firmly on their faces, some carrying baked goods that reflected their diverse cultures. Appetizers, desserts, and treats were piled high in boxes, each one a representation of shared stories and traditions. The energy buzzed as families tossed casual hellos and kids darted around, clinging to the promise of sweet delights. Jake wheeled himself over, his excitement bubbling over. "Look, Mom, look at all the cookies," he shouted, eyes sparkling brighter than all the decorations around them. The pride swelled in Sarah's chest as she turned to see him, her little warrior, who had fought his own battle and come out unfazed. She grinned, leaning down to give him a kiss on the forehead. "You ready to test some of these goodies?" "Yes, but I want to judge too." His laughter rang in her ears, joy unmatched by anything else. As the event began, Lily stepped up to the microphone, her excitement radiating. "Welcome, everyone, to our first ever community bake-off. We're here to share, connect, and celebrate each other's stories through food." The crowd cheered, a loud roar of support echoing through the park. Hours passed like seconds as families shared their special recipes. Jacob stepped forward to present his apple pie, eyes shimmering with pride and a touch of apprehension. The crowd quieted, anticipation brimming at the edges. "This pie is my mother's recipe passed down generations. And it comes with memories," he said, voice steadying, pulling the audience into his world. The warmth of his words wrapped around them like a cozy blanket, silencing any lingering apprehension. When the first slice hit the plate, murmurs spread through the group. "This is incredible," someone exclaimed, their appreciative smile sparking energy around. Sarah watched, her heart leaping. The event transformed. This was not just about baked goods. It was a testament of lives shared. Contestants lined up, each presenting their treats adorned with Love Mom's homemade fudge, Grandma's famous pie, exotic flavors from neighboring cultures. As the sun dipped lower, the laughter grew louder. Families swapped stories like recipes, forging connections where none existed before. Amid the chaos, Sarah caught glimpses of familiar faces, neighbors she hadn't spoken to since the accident, now joined together, reveling in the shared experience. The warmth radiating from this united front touched something deep within her. She finally felt the chains of guilt loosen as light poured in, illuminating the truth. They were all in this together. Hours drifted by, the event far surpassing her wildest dreams. Not once had she felt that anxious knot tighten in her stomach. Everyone's heart opened up, revealing a tapestry of connection woven through shared moments. As the judges prepared to announce the winners, Sarah stepped up beside Jake, the crowd staring back at them with eager eyes. "We did this together," she whispered, pride swelling in her heart. In that moment, Jake turned to her. "Yeah, we did, Mom. And it's amazing." The winners were announced, but the applause that followed felt like a cheer for unity rather than competition. The real victory was how everyone had come together, how lines of separation blurred. A sense of belonging, the force binding them all. The afternoon bathed the park in warm light. Sarah knew this was only the beginning. She took a deep breath, watching as people embraced one another. Families mingled freely, smiles dotted the landscape like stars scattered over a night sky. "Thank you for believing in us," she whispered, looking out at Lily, Jacob, and her son, all of them reflecting love and resilience. The road ahead would have struggles, but Sarah finally understood the power of community, the strength they could find together. Later that evening, as twilight cloaked the park, families began to trickle out, hearts lighter, spirits lifted. Sarah watched her neighbors departing with treats in hand and stories to share at home. It was a vision she couldn't have dreamed of a mere weeks before. "We did it." Jake beamed, his voice breaking her reverie. She pulled him into a tight hug, tears brimming in her eyes. Kneeling down, she whispered, "Yes, we did, buddy. Together. Always together." The words poured out like a promise forged in hope. As they rolled home, the lingering laughter echoed in her heart. Sarah's transformation was palpable. She had leaped from the shadows of despair into the brilliant light of love and connection. The spark ignited that day had the power to light the way forward, not just for them, but for an entire community woven together through stories, laughter, and, yes, delicious baked goods. The sun dipped below the horizon as they reached home, illuminating the path ahead, one filled with laughter, unity, and endless possibilities. Now, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand how vital these actions are.